All right. Well, we are back. Welcome back to Leading Through Unprecedented Times. I'm Tom Murray, your host, and yet again, I am ecstatic for this episode. This is an educator that is incredibly known, not just here in the U.S., but throughout the world, whose work I respect tremendously, whose work aligns with us here at Future Ready Schools. It is the one and only Principal Kafele, Baruti Kafele. Baruti, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm on fire.
You are on fire. That you are. Things good on your end?
Everything is good on my end. I'm loving life.
Yeah, so I go to pull your bio, and we've crossed paths many times. Finally, got to connect in person at a recent conference. You're an urban educator from New Jersey, just one of the top school leader and equity presenters in the United States. You've got, I don't know, like 900 books. It seems when I was really like researching some of it, I know at least 7 bestsellers with ASCD. Most importantly, you're a husband and a dad. If I were to start ripping off like all of your different awards that you've gotten, I'd be here for the entire podcast. So I encourage our listeners to go check it out for the few Americans that don't know of Baruti's work. So anything I missed there just from your background that you want to share with the group?
Nah, but the one that's most important to me, all those accolades, they mean a heck of a lot. But the one that matters to me most, believe it or not, is the day my principal said to me when I was a 5th grade teacher that you are our teacher of the year at the building level. That thing, man, my grandmother and I, we just cried together, because just based on my past, and here I am, this teacher of the year. And then they went on and named me the district teacher of the year, then the county teacher of the year, and then New Jersey State finalist. But it was that building level teacher of the year, which matters to me more than anything.
Yeah, that's awesome. And here you are still teaching. And for those that might not know your story, just give a quick overview, quick version of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, I trauma set into my life, challenges, and wound up spending 5 years in high school, attending 4 different schools. In the process, coming out with a 1.5 GPA, I did nothing. I had no goals, no dreams, no ambition, no purpose, no mission, no vision, no nothing. I was just existing. And seeing my friends graduating from college, I decided that I'd go, but more so just to please my mother than to please me. And she gave me a major. I asked her, what do I study? Because I still had no ambition. I just saw my friends graduating. And she said, study marketing. So I got a 4-year degree in marketing. I graduated summa cum laude at Kane University here in Jersey, and I haven't looked back. I thought I wasted my time with a marketing degree, but then I figured out as a teacher, I said, wait a minute, I did not waste my time because I'm still in the selling business. I have certain things that are here, and my charge is to take them and give them to somebody else, children. And many of us, we don't know how to do that. We've got certain expertise in content, but don't necessarily know how to deliver it for free to somebody else, in this case, a child, a student. So that marketing background is what enabled me to be that teacher that I just talked about. And it enabled me to become that leader that I talked about. And quite frankly, that presenter, that businessman that I talk about. Thank God my mother says study marketing as opposed to something else.
Yeah, you got it now for sure. And now you're teaching the adults, right? And now that one of your huge go-to areas that I've really looked towards your leadership and so many others have really are around school leadership. And, we think about the school leadership pre-COVID into post-COVID, some of the things that have happened nationally, just in our, across the nation and also across the world, culturally and race related and all the different pieces. And so as you're working with school and district leaders today, what are some of the messages that you're bringing them? Some of the things that you think that they really need to hear? Also just time of year, we're wrapping up a school year, starting to look to next year. And so when you talk to school and district leaders, what are some of the key pieces that you're bringing towards them or getting them to reflect on?
Yeah, this word equity, such a controversial word. Um, so many places just don't want it. Folks ask me, please don't mention the word equity and all that kind of thing. And I say, the reason you don't want me to bring that word is probably because you've heard so many different definitions of it. You don't even know what it is. So let me give you equity through the lens of Principal Kafele. I said, equity is simply meeting the children where they are, and then put 3 dots, dot, 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 put capital letters, as they are, period. End of discussion. Drop the mic. Meeting young people where they are as they are. And I say to them, that sounds to me like great teaching. And they say, yeah, that's how you're defining it. That's how I defined it in the book I wrote about it. Meeting the children. So if youngster proverbially is down here somewhere, but you're going to try to meet that youngster up here, you're not going to meet, right? But if you can go down there with him or her and start there and build and develop to the point where that youngster is up here where you want that youngster to be, you increase the probability because you bring that equity lens. So to answer the question, I'm saying to the fam that will see this, hear this later on, open up your mind, open up your heart, realize that at the end of the day, equity is simply having the intentionality of meeting the children right there where they are when they walk in the building. With me having a 1.5 GPA and not 4 but 5 years of high school, clearly nobody met me where I was. Because how do you go from that to a few years later graduating at the top of your class? That means that all of that was in me, but nobody was able to tap into it and help me to identify it, bring it out. I was probably valedictorian material at my high school, but no one identified that this kid that sits in the back of the room doing nothing but daydreaming, he's got something. So that's how I look at equity, and that's my message to everybody that will see this. Open up your heart, open up your mind, and realize this is not a political thing. It's just great teaching. Period.
Yeah, brilliant words and meeting people where they are. And just that's the heart of when we talk about our future ready framework, future ready leadership. It's exactly that, meeting folks where they are. So let's kind of a scenario here, because I know that you do so much with assistant principals and young leaders, those getting into the field, those that, that are APs. Let's take a scenario where here we are kind of the end of the school year. I'm somebody that just got hired. I'm hearing your words saying, I believe it. I want to see it. Now I'm taking on the principalship. What would you say to a newer administrator that says, okay, with all the equity stuff, all the equity pieces, I'm coming to a new building. Where do I start? What questions should I be asking? What are some of the indicators and things I should be looking at? Who should I be asking? Who should be involved in that conversation? What advice would you give for that?
Yeah, you come into that school, you're new, and you want to learn the landscape of that building. And one of the first things is just engaging that principal. You coming in as a new AP. You want to engage that. You asked the question about the AP coming in as new, right?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, so you coming in as that new AP, so you need to have that immediate conversation and learn all you can from that individual because you were there to assist that individual and not lead the school. And one of the areas of focus is the data of the school, not just achievement, but everything that's measurable, all the data that you can get your hands on to tell you something about that school. But then embedded in that conversation is who will you be instructionally? Who will you be as a coach? My analogy that I've been using for a little bit now, when I say a little bit over the past several months, I think about this team that will probably never exist, where on game day, the coach is in the locker room with the football players. We'll say a high school team on a Friday night, and the coach gives them that final message. It could be rah rah, it could be something as mellow as what I'm speaking right now, but that final message to say, let's get out there and get this win. And then the team, let's go. And then the coach says, and by the way, if you need me or my assistant coaches will be here in the locker room. Just come back and ask us whatever you need to ask us. But other than that, go on out there and win this game. So in other words, we're talking about a team that's going to march out onto the field uncoached and just play a 4-quarter game and hopefully they win. The analogy is that actually happens in schools across America where we'll be in a staff meeting and let's raise these scores, let's do whatever. And then if you need me, holler. So in other words, a teacher can go an entire year with the only semblance of coaching is that evaluation, right? That observation, evaluation, and then I'm done for the year with that. So now, but yet we expect to win the game. We expect to win the championship. How so? We sent the teacher in onto the field, so to speak, but we didn't provide the coaching. So I'm saying to the leaders that watch this now, particularly principals who see this, don't use your AP the way you may have been used if you were that full-time disciplinarian and all other responsibilities non-instructional related, because then what you're doing, you're training that person to be just like you. right? Just like you were. Instead, make sure that at the core of your assistant principal's responsibility is instructional leadership, instructional coaching, and how they in turn coach instructional coaches, teacher leaders, peer-to-peer training, etc. But make sure that that's at the core. And then if you're pessimistic or cynical and you say, well, Principal Kafele, wait a minute, we have issues in our school that require the AP to be these other things, such as disciplinarian, I will counter that by saying no. The issues aren't the children, however. The issues are the culture of the building. The culture is giving license to these undesirable behaviors, because I've been in that world where I had day throughout the course of a day undesirable behaviors to where we shifted the culture of the building, and now those behaviors disappear as if I'm a magician, right? So it's a matter of giving attention to the culture, not the individual behaviors, because the individual behaviors, that's just band-aid approaches. But the culture, now we're talking macro, that we've got to make this environment something very different.
Well, in the midst of all those truth bombs that you were dropping there, there's so many nuggets that I want to dive into. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, we have a somewhat limited time, but let me ask you about a couple of those pieces. And that's where you wrapped up with the culture. You know, being somebody like you that goes around the country and is in so many different spots and so many different schools, that word culture keeps coming up. But the culture here is this, but the culture here is that, but the culture here is this. And it really is foundational to any sort of change, anything that's going to be sustainable. It's the human element, the human side. So, what advice and how do you work with school and district leaders that really do set the tone for that culture? But maybe again, I'm a new AP coming in or a new principal coming in, either one, to help shift that culture. Because let's be real, I mean, it can take some time to truly shift that culture, and it can also be shattered overnight in a principal email, right? And
Yeah.
so talk to us about how you work through with principals on how to really reflect on culture, get out of their own blinders as well, see it for what it truly is, and then make some improvements. What's that look like?
Yeah, let me give you a couple of areas. I'm going to assess what the needs are as it relates to the children in the school if I'm coming in new, and what the needs are relative to staff, because there could be some issues of culture as it relates to staff relationships, staff morale, staff attitudes, etc. So I'm going to look at both. So let me use the students as an example. So the students, the reputation of the school is not good, right? It's negative, it's destructive. There's a lot of work to be done. So that means that as a leader, and this is me, just me for the time, just in this particular scenario, if I have confidence in who I am in relationship to them. Like if I feel that I have something, I think about a Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, and he clearly understands who he is as an individual. We're not even talking about his staff now. Just as an individual, I know what talents I possess as it relates to talking to my athletes, right? My student athletes. So as a principal and thereby the coach, the head coach, I understood some of my own qualities. So I said, let me start the day by being outside. And if you're a student of mine, you're never coming into this building without going through me. So if I'm out front, I'm shaking hands. My young ladies, I'm turning to the side and we kind of embrace. That's what they want to do. And I'm calling them by their name. And because they're coming in over a span of an hour, I have time to have a brief word, very brief, with each student that walks in. It's not just hello to the student by name and then they keep going. I can say something because I got time. So now, while I'm facing front, the building is behind me. And I'm literally shaping the culture of the building that I'm not even in nor see by the way I welcome the students onto the campus and into the building. Then once I've done that, I know I've got youngsters because I'm highly urban always. I know I've got youngsters who have such challenges in their lives, so overwhelming that probably most of my staff, if we ask them, trade places with the students for a day. Just walk their shoes for a day. And I promise you, you won't last for 5 minutes. You'll be begging for your shoes back. So I said, since I know that those students are walking into the building every day, And I know that I'm positioning myself in a way that I matter. I'm not even talking about leadership right now. I'm talking about the leader, that I matter, the leader. Let me bring them a message before instruction begins, like the head coach does. So I'm not going to send the team out onto the field without the message. Well, let me give them a message, not a cliche message, not a message of me complaining about what happened yesterday that I didn't like, but the upbeat, positive, inspiring, encouraging, empowering 2-minute message, maybe three, right? Message in the morning to lay a foundation and to set a tone for what this day is going to be. And between those two things, as I've told countless principals over the past many years, my day would start up here somewhere and it would go this way. See, because that was the highest note. That's because that's the note where I am intimately engaged, right? Then from there, I now morph back into that instructional leader, that other aspect of leadership, that even manager in some regards during the day. But this here, this is me. This is my one opportunity singularly to play my role. So I say that to say this with the answer. There's a lot of principles out there that this is not on their radar. And I say to principals, you don't have to be charismatic. You don't have to be a professional public speaker. You speak from your heart relative to who you are. Don't try to be Principal Kafele. Be you and deliver it authentically. And if you've positioned yourself in a way that your students feel you matter, that you care about them, that you're in this thing for them, that you wake up in the morning to be with them, they're going to hear you regardless of how your delivery sounds. But if you don't do it, then how are we starting off a school day and we never heard from our leader? I've never understood that.
Yeah, I love that and those incredible words of wisdom. I was thinking as you're talking about Coach Prime, Coach Sanders, I saw a clip recently that I'm guessing you saw as well, where one of the teachers of some of his students had reached out and said, the football players are disengaged. The football players are, making a fool of us in the classroom. They're completely, and there he was bringing it together at a team meeting and calling it out and saying, this is the expectations. And so the connection I want to make to what you just shared talked about really modeling also the outcomes that you're looking for from your staff and from your teachers, but then making the Coach Prime example here, he also called out, like, we don't do that here. And our expectations as a team are going to be up here. Our expectations for behavior are going to be up here. And so the analogy, the question I want to, and I love the connections you just made, but let's talk about on a staff. I'm a principal there, and I've got a handful of staff members that their behaviors, let's call it what it is, aren't matching our expectations. And, no matter what we do, we say A, they're saying B. No matter who we are, they're complaining about kids in a faculty room, whatever it might be. And, let's be real, and just reflecting on my own experience, I will tell you early on as a principal, there were times I started to look the other way. Well, if I start addressing it, something's going to blow up. It's going to impact our culture and maybe it'll go away. And learned very quickly that was not the way to handle it. And so what advice do you have for addressing those types of issues that come up with adult behavior in our schools to really create the culture and the environment where our kids can thrive?
Yeah, I peeped at my watch real quick, and I said, let me try to take this long answer and make it short, because I've got this little scenario. I'm gonna give you the short version. Um, Years ago, decades ago, I went to see the great Luther Vandross for the first time, and this was in '84. And he said something that stayed with me. This wasn't even a song. He said to the screaming 20,000 people in Madison Square Garden in New York City, he said, I'm going to take my time singing these love songs. And everybody screamed. And with me being new to Luther, I understood what he meant, but it probably would have resonated more if I had been a longtime fan. I was still young. So he said, I'm going to take my time. That means the average 4-minute song is going to be about 10, 13, 15 minutes long. And that's what people wanted. So now let's fast forward that. I become principal in 97 at 98. And I said, wow, Luther, I'm walking my halls. Luther said, I'm going to take my time singing these love songs. I understand that now from the chair I sit now. I can't know my staff through a staff meeting, through a department meeting, through a whatever team oriented meeting. I can't know them that way. Luther said, I'm gonna take my time singing these love songs. So that became my mantra. And I said, I'm walking through this building all day and I'm saying, I'm gonna take my time singing these love songs. I'm gonna take my time singing these love songs. So as I develop my Sunday morning leadership plan, that's a whole other conversation though, as opposed to a to-do list, my leadership plan, the plan said that I need to know Miss So-and-so a little better. I need to know Mr. So-and-so a little better or a lot better because they're doing those things you just discussed. That behavior is not what I need it to be. Their expectations are not where I need them to be. Their outlook is not where I need it to be. Their vision is not where I need to be, whatever it is. So let me go into the room. My plan said they got to prep at 9. So let me pop in there at 9 and make it look spontaneous. So I pop in there at 9 and the intent is to stay there no longer than 3 minutes. And we're going to have a conversation about something that has nothing to do with the issue. If I know this person likes a particular sport, entertainment, or whatever they may be into, I'll find it. I'll figure it out. I'll think on my feet, figure it out. We'll talk about it for about 2-3 minutes. I'll keep a smile on my face because and we'll make sure that this is in the classroom. I'm gonna sit at a student's desk to lower me, right, so that they're looking down on me, so it can strip me of whatever power is perceived that I have. And now we'll just have this friendly talk for a short duration of time. And then when we're finished, I'm a fist bump, high five, shake the hand of the teacher, whatever it is, and say, great conversation. Let's do it again sometime. Teacher doesn't know what hit him. Next day comes, I'm gonna stay away. But that next day after that, I'm coming back in, and I'm gonna come with something different now because I'm taking my time singing these love songs. I can't shift you until I've established some kind of trust between us. So if I can go in and show you another side of me beside your boss, your leader, your principal, but show you the human side of me, right? That I'm just a regular dude like you, right? Now there's some trust. Oh man, Kafele's all right. I like him. And now as I massage that and get to a point where I feel, okay, we got something here. Now I can have a much better constructive conversation than if I just went at you, yo, you got to change this, you got to change that. Because there's no trust us. I didn't establish anything. I didn't take my time singing these love songs. So now I can go in there and put that teacher at ease and delicately ease into the topic, not abruptly, delicately ease into the topic. And now we can have that conversation. And I can sit here at this seat and say to you, Tom, that every one of those teachers became my buddy. Every one of those teachers became my ally. Every one of those teachers elevated their game because we had a rapport. We had a relationship. It wasn't just me going in using my principalship saying, you've got to change. Because as you know, that's not going to work.
Yeah. No,
Not
Baruti,
over the long haul anyway. Yeah.
no, I love that. And I'm thinking as you're talking about that, it's the exact connection and story and analogy of a teacher and a student that's walking in, that would head down every day or grimacing
Yeah.
every day. And it's really the same connection.
That's right.
Personally, I talk about the hidden stories within, and it's the stories on somebody's heart that we don't know, that they walk around with every single day. And, when I think about that scenario myself, I think about, at one point in time, some principal looked across the table and said, that's the teacher that I want. And so what happened there?
Yeah.
There's a story there, right? Our
Yeah.
buddy, our co-buddy Jimmy Casas, who's
That's
been
right.
involved with Future Ready since inception, loves to ask the question, like, what did you say in that interview chair, right? About why they wanted it. But at some point in time, there was an administrator who said, that's the teacher that I want. And then all of a sudden, that's the teacher that I'm now sometimes as an admin complaining about. And
That's right.
it comes down to trust, just like it does with students. And once they have that trust, being able to have some of those, I used to call them difficult conversations. Now I call them needed conversations,
Yeah.
just from framing that as well. So I know we're almost at time, but I've got one more question for you. You're all over the country. You're speaking left and right at conferences, working with districts, working with leadership teams, and so many of the pieces we talked about today. As we wrap up this school year, look into next year, what's something that's on your heart right now that you feel school and district leaders just need to hear, that you're seeing a real need for? What would you share with them?
Yeah. I say to leaders and I say to teachers regularly that you and I can never afford to wait for your evaluator of record, your supervisor, to inform you of your effectiveness. You have got to invest in one of these, just a little 50 cent, 25-cent mirror. Use it symbolically and ask yourself regularly, am I the leader that I set out to be? Is my school a better school because I lead it? Does my leadership benefit my school academically? What is my value to the teachers that I supervise instructionally? Are my teachers at an advantage because I'm their leader? Right. So assessing us and being earnest in the assessment, that self-reflection, that self-assessment towards self-adjustment and self-improvement. I would say that throughout the summer months, we're still working, but we're also preparing for the next school year. Assess you. Don't rely just on that tool that the evaluator gave you, your supervisor, your superintendent or assistant super, whatever it is. Assess you, but be honest with the person in the reflection. When you play games with the person in reflection, then you're going to get distorted results. So you got to be honest with that person. Assess you on a daily basis. I throughout my teaching days, my principal days, I self-assessed, and I tell all my audiences, I'm vulnerable and transparent, that when I get on that plane, when I leave here, I will be assessing my performance with you. Now, I don't think a lot of people are going to do that, right? But I tell them, I say, who I am in real time with you right now, that matters to me, because a lot of you'd rather be doing other things, such as being in your classroom, leaders catching up on some work, but you're stuck. You're in this room with me. I have to deliver. I say this to an audience. I have to deliver. This presentation's got to be good, right? But then I'm going to go. I said, I'm not waiting for for my contact person or the organizer to send me the evaluations. When I'm on that plane, I will take care of that myself, and I know where the flaws are. I know where the deficiencies are, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to journal on the plane to say, here's what I got to do better tomorrow. That's
Powerful
my advice.
questions, powerful words, my man. I appreciate you sharing
Appreciate
all
it, man.
that. One final thing, because we have a moment. You have taken off the month of May
Yeah,
because you are working on something. You want to give a glimpse as to what comes next from Principal
yeah.
Kafele? What do you got?
Yeah, every time I finish a book, I think I'm done with books. I think I've exhausted. I got nothing else in me. And then what happens is I just keep my eyes and ears open, life. And all of a sudden, oh, here's another topic I need to write on. So this book, what is my value to the teachers that I supervise? Instructionally. See, and to contrast it, I'm not asking this question. What is my value to the teachers that I supervise? I'm not asking that. And I tell my audiences all the time, I've been doing the workshop for about a year or so. I say, I'm not interested in that question. I'm interested in the question, what is my value to the teachers that I supervise instructionally? And that translates into some very quiet rooms for an entire full day. They'll talk to each other when I give them the opportunity to engage with one another, but they will not talk to me. And they'll tell me why. They'll tell me, Kafele, the questions that accompany this workshop, whether this is this or any workshop I do, they say it's like you're stepping on our toes, you're punching us in the gut. It's like we don't want to talk to you. We just want to reflect. We want to assess ourselves and figure out what it is we need to do to align with these self-reflective questions that you're throwing at us. So I'm good with that. But I wasn't in the beginning years ago because I didn't know what was going on, that I couldn't get any participation. I thought it was me. But then I started asking. So they started telling me, no, it's not you. We love you. It's us. You're asking us some very tough questions.
Well, and that reflection is such a key to growth. Rudy, our listeners, how can they connect with you? What's best?
I love it. It's principalkafele.com.
That is
Um, that's it. Everything is there. My Saturday live stream, AP and New Principals Academy, the books, the blogs, the articles, the YouTube videos, Principal Kafele, email address, social media, principalkafele.com. Everything is there.
awesome. And a shout out to that Saturday group that you have and just the incredible inspiration that happens every day. I encourage you all to check that out. It's Baruti Kafele, everyone. Baruti, my friend, good to see you. Thanks for your time today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.